National Voter Registration Act, NVRA training for Voter Registration Agency, VRA coordinators and staff by the California Secretary of State Elections Division. Introduction to the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA. The National Voter Registration Act was signed into law in 1993. The NVRA established voting as a fundamental right and states that federal, state, and local governments have a duty to promote voting. The NVRA requires governmental agencies to offer voter registration. States must offer voter registration whenever an individual applies for a driver's license or identification card, renews a driver's license or identification card, or requests a change of address. States must also offer voter registration at all public assistance agencies and at all agencies primarily serving people with disabilities. Lastly, the NVRA requires states to designate additional agencies as voter registration agencies in order to reach more eligible voters. Goals of the National Voter Registration Act. The NVRA was designed to remedy past discrimination by making it easier for U.S. citizens to register to vote and by safeguarding against the purging of voter rolls. It has the goal of increasing voter registration in underserved and disabled communities. Why does voter registration matter? People must be registered in order to vote. California currently has a voter registration rate of just over 80%, with approximately 4.5 million eligible voters who are not registered. Californians with disabilities and those who are low income have lower rates of voter registration. Voter registration efforts in California. In 2012, then State Senator Alex Padilla authored California Senate Bill 35, SB 35. This bill codified the NVRA into California law and added new requirements. SB 35 created a three-part team consisting of the Secretary of State's office, county elections officials, and voter registration agencies. The bill also created a system of voter registration accountability. In 2016, California began offering voter pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. 16 and 17-year-olds who meet the other voter eligibility requirements can pre-register to vote. They will be automatically registered to vote when they turn 18. California's voter registration agencies. Offices designated as voter registration agencies, VRAs, must offer voter registration opportunities to their clients. There are three categories of VRAs: public assistance agencies, disability service agencies, and other agencies designated by the Secretary of State. A complete list of California's public assistance and disability services agencies can be found online at the Secretary of State's website. Other VRAs include Armed Forces Recruitment Offices, the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, and the Franchise Tax Board district offices. the core of the NVRA and California law. The NVRA and California law place requirements on the Secretary of State's office, SOS, county elections officials, and VRAs. The SOS must coordinate with county elections officials, state agencies, and local agency sites to implement the NVRA. In general, the SOS works directly with counties who oversee the VRAs in their area. However, the SOS does work directly with some VRAs to provide voter registration cards and track registrations. The SOS must publish monthly reports that show the voter registration numbers from voter registration agency offices and sites. In addition, the Secretary of State must publish biennial voter registration reports for the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Finally, the SOS must make NVR training materials available to counties and voter registration agencies. County elections officials must designate a county NVRA coordinator and place known voter registration agency offices and sites on a county roster. County elections officials must order voter registration cards, VRCs, and provide them to the VRAs in their county. The county must also track all of the voter registration cards provided to the VRAs using affidavit numbers. When VRCs are returned to the county elections office, the affidavit numbers allow the county NVRA coordinator to identify which VRA site they came from. Every month, the county NVRA coordinator will report the voter registration numbers from each VRA office and site to the Secretary of State. Every other year, they will also report the voter registration numbers to the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Lastly, county elections officials must assist VRAs with training upon requests. Voter registration agencies, VRAs, must offer voter registration in each of their offices and sites. They must also register themselves as VRAs with the county NVRA coordinator and identify each of their offices and sites. At each separate site, they should designate an NVRA coordinator. VRAs must print voter preference forms from the Secretary of State's website. They should print these forms in every language required by their county by the Voting Rights Act. VRAs must order voter registration cards in each of the required languages. When a client completes a VRC, the VRA must forward it within 10 days, or within 5 days if a VRC is received within 5 days of a voter registration deadline. To avoid confusion and ensure timeliness, the Secretary of State recommends forwarding VRCs daily. Voter registration agencies have the responsibility to train their staff to comply with the NVRA. The NVRA requires that VRAs provide training to all of their staff at least once per year. VRAs must also ensure that new employees receive training promptly so that they can comply with the Nvra during their interactions with clients. Finally, VRAs have the responsibility to incorporate Nvra services into their benefits enrollment websites. If clients can enroll in or renew services online, they must be presented with the questions from the voter preference form and given the opportunity to register. Some VRAs have provided specific Nvra guidance for their agencies. These instructions can be found on the SOS website. How and when to offer voter registration. VRA staff must offer voter registration by providing clients with 2 forms at 3 opportunities. The 2 forms are the voter preference form and the voter registration card. You must offer these forms whenever a client applies for new benefits, applies to renew benefits, or applies for a change of address. You may also offer voter registration if a client applies for a name change. The VPF is available to download and print from the Secretary of State's website. The form is available in all 10 languages specified by the Voting Rights Act. VRAs must keep completed VPFs on file for 2 years. You can store them individually in client files or in a central file. They can be stored electronically or as hard copies. You can see an image of the VPF on slide 18 of our PowerPoint training presentation. If the client indicates on the VPF that they would like to register to vote, you must provide them with a VRC. If they indicate that they do not want to register at this time, let them take a VRC home. You should provide clients with the same level of assistance in filling out the VRCs as you would provide them in filling out your agency's own forms. VRAs must order VRCs and keep a sufficient stock on hand to serve all of their clients. You can see an image of the VRC on slide 20 of our PowerPoint training presentation. When a client applies by mail, over the phone, or online, VRAs must still offer them voter registration. Clients who apply online should receive an online VPF and be given the chance to register online. When clients apply over the phone, you should ask them if they want to register and record their answer on a VPF. If they indicate yes, you should mail them a VRC. If a client applies for benefits by mail, mail them a VPF and a VRC. Clients who receive assistance in their own home to apply for benefits, renew benefits, or update their address must be offered voter registration. Staff who provide in-home services should bring VPFs and VRCs with them. Adults applying for benefits on behalf of minors should be offered voter registration, unless the minor is eligible to pre-register. There are a few important guidelines to keep in mind when assisting clients with voter registration. You may encourage clients to register to vote, but you must not discourage them from registering. You must never try to influence a client's political party preference. Lastly, you must never suggest that registering to vote will affect a client's ability to receive benefits and services. The decision to register to vote always lies with the client themselves, rather than with the conservator, caseworker, parent, service coordinator, or other representative. Helping clients with the voter registration process. You should be familiar with the contents of both the voter registration card, VRC, and the California Online Voter Registration System, COVR, in order to assist clients with registration. The Secretary of State has created 2 ASL instructional videos that explain in detail how to fill out a VRC and how to navigate COVR. You can find these links online at the Secretary of State's website. Voter registration eligibility. To register to vote in California, you must be a United States citizen and resident of California, 18 years old or older on Election Day, not currently serving a state or federal prison term for the conviction of a felony, and not currently found mentally incompetent to vote by a court. To pre-register to vote in California, you must be 16 or 17 years old and meet the other voting eligibility requirements. As an NVRA coordinator or staff member at a voter registration agency, you should not screen for voter eligibility. County elections officials will screen for voter eligibility when they receive completed voter registration cards or online registrations. They will reject applications from ineligible individuals. If an applicant has eligibility concerns, you may recite the voter eligibility guidelines to them. You must allow them to complete a VRC even if you are not sure they are eligible to vote. Many people may not realize that they can still register to vote if they cannot read or write, do not speak English, are homeless, do not have a driver's license, identification card, or social security number, have a disability, or cannot sign the voter registration card. People with disabilities may complete the VRC with reasonable accommodations. Those who cannot sign the VRC may mark an X or use a signature stamp. As VRA coordinators or staff, you can play an important role in registering voters who did not know they were eligible. Who should register to vote? Clients at your agency may be unsure whether they should register or re-register to vote. You can help them to determine whether they should take the opportunity to register. Anyone who has never registered to vote should register. Clients who have moved to a new address, changed their legal name, or changed their political party preference should re-register to vote. Clients who have not voted in the last few elections should re-register in case they are no longer listed as active on the voter rolls. Anyone who is not sure whether they are registered to vote should register. There is no penalty for registering to vote when you are already registered. What happens after a person registers? After a person registers to vote, they should receive a postcard in the mail confirming that they are now registered. Before an election, a registered voter should receive a voter information guide and other voting materials in the mail. These voting materials will include the location of their polling place. A person who has registered as a permanent vote-by-mail voter will receive their mailed ballot. Assisting with clients with disabilities. When you assist clients who have disabilities, the same rules apply for voter registration. You must provide them with the voter preference form and a voter registration card. If the client needs help filling out the VRC, you must provide the same level of assistance as you would with your agency's own forms. If your agency provides in-home services, you must provide voter registration services in clients' homes. You should always offer voter registration and never make assumptions about a person's ability to register or to vote based on a disability. Common misconceptions about disabilities and voting. Many people incorrectly believe that various kinds of disabilities or limitations could prevent some people from registering or voting. One misconception is that a psychiatric, intellectual, developmental, or physical disability could make someone unable to register or unable to vote. Some people incorrectly believe that use of a wheelchair might prevent someone from voting. However, all polling locations in California are required to be wheelchair accessible. Another misconception is a person under conservatorship is not competent to vote. However, a person under conservatorship is presumed competent unless a court decides otherwise. Disability etiquette. It is important to maintain basic etiquette when interacting with people with disabilities. Always refer to the person first, then the disability. Say, a person with a disability rather than a disabled person. Do not use the term handicapped when referring to a person with a disability. Offer assistance, but wait until your offer is accepted before you help. Listen to any instructions the client provides about the best way to assist them. Share the same social courtesies with everyone. If you usually shake hands, offer your hand to everyone you meet, regardless of their disability. Always speak directly to the person you are assisting, rather than any person who may be accompanying them. When assisting a person with a visual impairment, there are a few general guidelines to keep in mind. If you need to lead that person somewhere, allow them to take your arm and guide them rather than propel them. Identify yourself and others around you. For example, say, "On my right is John Smith." Speak in a normal tone of voice and indicate when the conversation is over. Let them know when you move from one place to another. Nvra Coordinator Responsibilities. Every voter registration agency office and site must designate an Nvra coordinator. These coordinators are responsible for making sure that the VRA complies with Nvra requirements. Their first responsibility is to maintain a supply of VRCs sufficient to serve all of the VRA's clients. They should keep an inventory of the VRA's supply of VRCs and order more when the VRA is running low. Coordinators must ensure that their agency participates in the accountability process. They must identify their agency to the county or Secretary of State Nvra coordinators and make sure their registration numbers are being reported accurately. Nvra coordinators also oversee regular training for VRA staff members. They must ensure that new staff receive Nvra training and that all staff receive training once a year. Ordering voter registration cards. Some voter registration agencies, known as SOS-tracked VRAs, must order their voter registration cards directly from the Secretary of State's office. These agencies include university and college offices for students with disabilities, the California Student Aid Commission, and the Office of Services to the Blind Assistance Dog Special Allowance Program. Other VRAs order their VRCs from their county elections officials. These are county-tracked VRAs. Nvra coordinators for SOS-tracked VRAs should submit a statement of distribution to the SOS with their VRC order. This form can be downloaded from the SOS website. County-tracked VRAs should contact their county elections officials when they need to order more VRCs. They should always identify themselves as a VRA when placing an order. Different counties may have different procedures for ordering VRCs, so each VRA should establish a relationship with their county elections officials to ensure they complete the process correctly. Tracking and accountability. Nvra coordinators must make sure that their voter registration numbers are being tracked and that the numbers are accurate. When an agency identifies itself as a VRA to the county will track the affidavit numbers on the VRCs they distribute to the VRA. This allows them to track all voter registrations that come from that VRA. The Secretary of State directly tracks voter registration numbers for universities, colleges, the California Student Aid Commission, and the Office of Services to the Blind Assistance Dog Special Allowance Program. These institutions should check the monthly reports to ensure accurate reporting. County elections officials report VRA voter registration numbers to the Secretary of State monthly. Nvra coordinators at these VRAs should also check the relevant monthly reports to ensure that their sites and registration numbers are being reported accurately. Nvra monthly reports are posted on the Secretary of State's website. There are several different reports that appear on this page. VRAs whose numbers are tracked by the county should check report number 6 to verify their voter registration numbers. Colleges, universities, and the other SOS-tracked VRAs should check report number 8 to verify their voter registration numbers. If you believe your voter registration numbers are not being reported accurately, you should contact your county elections official or the Secretary of State's office in order to find the source of the problem. Training. Nvra coordinators must make sure that employees receive Nvra training. Every year, you must train every employee who assists clients in your agency's application, renewal, or change of address processes. You must also provide prompt training to every new employee who participates in these processes. There are training resources available on the Secretary of State's website, including PowerPoint training presentations and an Nvra training video. You can find these resources at the California Secretary of State's website. Nvra resources. For additional resources related to the Nvra, please reference slides 62 and 63 of our PowerPoint training presentation. If you have questions about the Nvra and California registration laws, you can contact your agency's Nvra coordinator, your county elections official's Nvra coordinator, or the Nvra coordinators at the Secretary of State. To contact the SOS Nvra coordinators, you may call 916-657-2166 or email nvra@sos.ca.gov.